Legends of Boxing show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Legends of Boxing show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag, also the Retired Boxers Foundation. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, Jeremiah Preisser. How you doing, Jeremiah?
I'm doing very, very well. Excited to be on. Always excited to be on. Let's talk some boxing, guys.
All right, and our guest today that we want to welcome in is former two-time world champion Reggie Johnson. How you doing, Reggie?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for sharing your platform with me, Mike, and it's a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Jeremiah.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start off. You grew up in the Fifth Ward in Houston, like a lot of well-known fighters. We had George Foreman on 3 or 4 weeks ago. He grew up there also. What was your childhood like growing up in such a rough area like that?
Well, it was pretty similar to what George Foreman told you, but I think I was caught before George. I started boxing when I was 12, and I was pretty much headed down that bad road, but at the age of 12 when I started boxing, I had an uncle who was boxing for the Salvation Army Boys Club, who introduced me to Mr. James Carter, the late Mr. James Carter, who was was considered my white daddy and my mentor and boxing coach. And it came to a point to where he met my mother. My mother didn't really want me boxing, and he, stayed on my mother, kept talking to her, and I think what really convinced her to give it a try when he said, well, this will give him structure, this will keep him out of trouble. And she let me start boxing, and I'll never forget the day I put gloves on, this man told me I could become champion of the world just by seeing me the first time in a boxing ring. And he told me, but I had, it's some things that I had to, stay in line with. And, everything he told me came to pass. He didn't lie to me.
Right. So he's not only a boxing coach, he was sort of like a father figure as well.
Oh, absolutely. Because during that time, my dad was, he was locked up during that time. My late father, he was locked up during that time. And my uncle, who was boxing at the Boys Club, my mother's brother, took me to meet Mr. James Carter, and that was, my whole life changed. I'm gonna tell you how much I loved the sport of boxing and knew that I had found my niche. My first fight, I lost, got disqualified for slapping. That's when they had the white on the glove one turn, and I went on to lose my next 3 fights. But I was still coming. I was still happy, and I just knew that I was in a place that I wanted to be. And I think when I won my first fight, the next time I lost a fight, I was fighting in the national.
Yeah, and you ended up having a good amount of success as an amateur. And from what I've read, you went 96-12 as an amateur, and you made it to the quarterfinals of the Olympic trials. Was it a big disappointment not making the Olympics?
Well, at that particular point, I had traveled. I won all my international fights. I did Sweden, Germany, Denmark. And then I became the youngest to win the King's Cup tournament in Bangkok, Thailand. I think that was a tournament that probably had like about 30-something countries. I won that at the age of 16. But at that particular time, on the path that I was on, I had matured a great deal. And I tell all kids when I speak to kids or anybody in general that it's very important to see the world. I know people that's in my city, Houston, that ain't never been to Galveston, which is only 50 miles from here. So, when you travel, it educates you. And, with boxing, doing any sport is good structure. But there's something special about boxing because it don't only give you structure and discipline, it also armors you. Because one thing about it, you won't be able to whoop everybody.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that it teaches you is responsibility. Because when you get a team sport, if you screw something up, you can always blame the guy next to you. In boxing, you can't do that.
Oh, absolutely. And then you add to this sport of the ultimate sport of boxing, how it humbles you. Think about it. Even the greatest of all time, Ali, the great Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, all these great fighters, they all lost. They always humbled. And I did 96 and 12 as an amateur. I had 52 pro fights, won 7 titles. You didn't give me credit for the 3rd world title. You said 2-time world champion, but my last title fight was a world title fight with the late Julio Gonzalez.
What belt was that?
Well, it was an IBA belt.
Okay, I don't count that. Wait a second. I went through this with James Toney when I introduced him as a 3-time world champion, and I let him go on about how he was a 14-time world champion. But, Reggie, the IBA doesn't count.
Well, wait a minute. I'm not going to go that many now. 14. Well, wait a minute now. That's a lot. But, okay, let me explain something to you. I was doing an interview with a guy from London, England. And he said the same thing, 2-time world champion. Now, fighters make the belts. The belts don't make the fighters. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, but also I just think there's a huge problem, and I know Jeremiah agrees with me on this, about all these organizations taking money from boxers. You got to pay a sanctioning fee for this. You got to pay a sanctioning fee for that. And I wish it would just go back because, let's face it, boxing is the only sport where you can have multiple world champions. And it drives me nuts. And not so much with you fighting Julio Gonzalez, because you guys were really good fighters. But you'll get guys fighting for an IBO championship or an IBA championship that aren't even ranked in the top 10 by a lot of organizations.
Okay, well, see, that kind of weigh in on what I'm saying. Listen, okay, if Floyd Mayweather fought Canelo for a belt that he go get out of his closet, that is a legitimate belt because look at the 2 guys who's fighting. Do that make any sense to you?
No, it doesn't make the belt legit, but what it makes it to me is 2 great fighters fighting, and to me that's more important than what kind of trinkets up. You know, if I see Triple G and Canelo fighting
in the belt, but it kind of
if I see
the belt worthy.
Yeah, I mean it does. It adds legit. I mean the IBF became legitimate because in 1984, 83 they got Larry Holmes to take over and be the IBF champion, and that's why it was legitimized. So I understand completely what you're saying.
Oh. Well, we pretty much saying the same thing. We pretty much saying the same thing.
All right, Reggie, you win. You're a 3-time world champion.
Okay, but we're not going to get stuck on that, man, because I got this thing I'm starting right now called 3 world titles is not enough, because no matter how many world titles you win, you know, it comes down to what you give back to the community and what that's over with. You know, 3 world titles are not enough, man. We got a lot of stuff to do, and you know, as far as people coming together, communities, like Mr. Carter filled in for me. I didn't have a father, and he became that father figure. See, 3 world titles is not enough. No matter how many world titles you win, you know, we still all got to come together. We still all got to give back.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeremiah.
Yeah. So you're saying there's a greater theme than just, you know, wearing metal and plastic around your waist.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Because even if you think about a guy like Muhammad Ali, you know, he gave up. Think about what he did. And I know a lot of people don't agree with it, but history kind of like redeemed him, because even the hippies, a lot of people say, yeah, man, why he's going over that? But his religion. Man gave up money. He gave up belts. He gave up everything. He had to start. He started speaking at colleges.
Yeah, and that's why, to me, Muhammad Ali, it drives me nuts when people say he was a draft dodger, because he wasn't a draft dodger, because he didn't run to Canada. He stood and fought for what he believed in, and he was willing to accept the consequences. And the thing that's bad is the same people that'll rip Muhammad Ali for that will vote for Donald Trump, who was a complete pussy and got out of it because of his dad.
Wait a minute, you say was, he still is.
Yeah. Well. No, now he just grabs him.
Yeah, you know, man, it's a sad deal. Once again, this goes back to me telling you about at a young age, being able to travel the United States, travel the world. See, the world is bigger than that, man. Come on, man. This really lets you know, man, when Donald Trump talking about making America great, saying we the greatest country. But see, I've been to other countries. I've talked to people. Do you know where the Nobel Peace Prize originated from? What country?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. It's in Norway, Oslo. I stayed at the hotel that Martin Luther King stayed in, and we was talking to a young lady from there, and she was just telling she's getting ready to have a kid. She was going to college, going to medical school, and she was telling me all the stuff. And you know what? Her health insurance was paid. Her country rewarded her for having a kid, and it rewarded her for serving. That's why she was serving in the military. So when you go to countries and you hear people talk like this and say this and this is what my country is doing, and now I got an uncle who's in the VA, and he's been in there for almost 2 years now, and I've been in that atmosphere because I used to go 2-3 times a day, and I go like now like 3 or 4 times a week to see him. And I'm seeing how America, how they handle these guys who went and fought for this country, and how they doing that, man. It's not right. See, that's why I say 3 world titles is not enough. Hey, all them casinos, all that stuff that Donald Trump did is not enough.
Hey, this is the thing. This is the thing, Reggie. I think what they're missing is this. The ideal of this country, what was put on paper at the beginning, was a great country. The problem was they never fulfilled those ideas. I mean, let's face it. They wrote all men were created equal, but then they ignored 15% of the population.
Now you know what that's reminiscent of? Because I always talking from a boxing perspective. That's just like a guy got a record 35-0 with 30 knockouts, and then when he fights a real person, he's not real.
Oh, you're talking about Deontay Wilder.
What'd you say?
I said you're talking about Deontay Wilder.
Well, let me tell you something, man. That dude got good size. But let me tell you, as soon as he fights somebody, man, this guy, you know what's amazing to me, sir? It's hard for me to believe that one of our greatest amateurs of all time, Mark Whelan, who was on the U.S. team with me, is training this guy, and this guy fundamentals is like that. That is so crazy to me. How can a guy throw punches like that? And then if he hit somebody, it look like he hurt him or think he hurt him. This guy throw punches all the way from Alabama. No matter where he at, he reached back to Alabama to get those punches.
Yeah, all the way from Tuscaloosa, he's winging them. Yeah, I mean he gets guys hurt, and then he starts getting sloppy. Not only that, we forget that Deontay Wilder was actually an Olympian. He actually won a bronze medal.
Yes, he did. Now let me tell you something. Now, with his size and his power, he's got a lot of potential, man. But I mean, it really just like where we at with America. It pretty much lets you know where we at in boxing in this day and time. You know, think about the middleweights. Just say my era, the '90s. Think about all the fighters they had, and compared to the fighters, the middleweights in this era. Compared to when I was fighting in the '90s, me, Roy Jones, even the guys I beat, Lamar Parks, them type of guys, man. Gerald McCullough, Julian Jackson, Mike McCullough. Come on, man. Come on, Mike. Oh yeah, Mike a second to none, because you know none was supposed to fight me. That's why I ended up fighting Toney in 6 weeks, because he kept getting buys, and I was the number one contender for almost a year. But think about all that talent, man, back then.
Yeah. Actually, we've got a question about that later on in the show that we want you to answer. But I actually wrote about that topic not long ago. But I just want to put us back on track here. And focus a little bit on Reggie Johnson. What do you remember about your pro debut?
Well, my pro debut, I'm gonna tell you a beautiful thing about me turning pro. They had a group here called HBA, which is a lady named Josephine Abercrombie. She's flying in all fighters. She flew into Iran, Torrance, Iran. Barkley did business with him. The guy I lost to in the Olympic trials, who won the gold medal, Frank Tate, he signed with him. They had so many fighters, man, and she's bringing fighters from all over. And but when they signed Frank Tate, my mentor, the late Mr. James Carter, he didn't think it was a good idea that I signed with them because the focus of us in the same way, the focus wouldn't be on me. So he went and found another group for me to sign with. And the people I signed with, they did something special for me, and me making that transition from amateur pro. I had one of the great welterweight world champions from the '60s train me, the great Curtis Coates. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Curtis Coates. Well, that was my first trainer, professional trainer, and it's about 4 hours from here. So I had a couple of pro fights down there, but he used to come here, and I used to go to Dallas, and I was off to a good start, and they stepped me up, and I never forget this. Which when I reminisce about it, I learned a lot from it. I lost my 7th pro fight. A guy named Adam George. It was a cousin of Roman George, who was a good fighter, but an amateur fighter. And I never forget the reason why I lost that fight, that close fight, was it was my first 8-round fight. And I was just thinking about being able to go 8 rounds. And I never forget when that bell rung and the fight was over, I still had all this energy. And it pretty much taught me to, leave it all in the ring.
Yeah, and after, about 20 fights, you moved out to California and fought quite a bit at the Forum. What prompted the move, and how did it better your career?
Well, this is another interesting story, and but I was the people that I had signed with then. Bob Jordan at one time he had like 60+ fighters. Had me, Mike Williams. He had a whole bunch of Sherman Griffin, who was on the U.S. team. Sherman Griffin beat Evander and fought Womack and all them guys back then. He's from St. Louis, but he had great fighters. But a lot of those fighters was getting in trouble. A lot of them wasn't, And Mr. Jordan is a good friend of mine now, and I still communicate with him. And he took care of fighters, him and his brother. But the thing is, he's having problems. I think he's kind of getting, kind of tired of dealing with all the drama that came with some of the fighters, a lot of the fighters. And I was the only fighter winning. So what he did, keep in mind now, 1988, he booked me a fight in South Africa. I was about 21, 22 years old, but he was supposed to be in South Africa. During that time, it was with apartheid. Nelson Mandela was still incarcerated, and a lot of countries weren't doing business with South Africa because of the way they was treating people over there. And I went over there and fought that guy. Went over there with a guy named Jamie Fields from Sweetport, who had about 4 or 5 fighters signed with us, and they was here in Houston, but they was from Sweetport, Louisiana. And me and him went over there. I stayed over there right at a month leading up to that fight, and I went over there and knocked that guy out in the 7th round. Charles Oosthuizen, a guy I communicate with him, his daughters, and he had 2 sons that boxed that did pretty good too. So what happened was, as I came back from South Africa, I'm just in the gym training, because I was taught by Mr. Carter and my uncle, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And all this time went by, and I wouldn't get no fights. And then somebody told me, say, listen, they got people in California signing fighters, Reggie. I told them about you. You need to be fighting. And that's how I made the move. The guy who owned the gym, I was trained for about another week, and I asked him, I said, what happened to the people in California? He said, I've been busy. I'll call him. So the next day, I talked to him. He said, Reggie, they want you to come. I think the next week I went there, stayed a week, trained. The guy who owned that whole outfit, the late Mr. Carl DeMay, had Alberto Davila was one of the trainers. The late, who became my chief trainer, Manuel Chato Robles from Mexico, and Jesse Reed. I know you know Jesse Reed.
Yeah.
Okay, just a trainer. Why I don't know why he's not in the Hall of Fame already. All the great champions he had.
But go ahead.
No. I already know what you're finna say, but the politics that come with that too. So, but Jesse Reed should definitely be in the Hall of Fame.
Well,
that's how I ended up in California.
Yeah, it's one of those things with trainers. Is I don't think a lot of the Hall of Fame voters have a lot of knowledge on the trainers themselves, because you look at. I've actually talked to Harry Wiley Jr. at length, who is the son of Ray Robinson's trainer, and he was, he had his hands in guys like Henry Armstrong and others, and helped some other guys to get to the top. And he gets virtually no credit at all. But I think it's one of those things with trainers in general. A lot of the writers and a lot of the voters are just not familiar with them.
Yeah, and if you look at Jesse Reed, I think from what I remember, he trained Roger Mayweather. He trained Lamont Brewster when he upset Klitschko, and then Johnny Tapia, Bruce Curry, and Orlando Canizales too.
And Hector Camacho. He worked with Hector Camacho for a while.
I thought that was Jimmy Montoya mainly.
No, but Jesse. You look at Camacho fights. Jesse Reed is in his corner.
Yeah.
Camacho moved around a little bit, but yeah, he worked with Camacho, man. He worked with. As a matter of fact, he was the one that Frank Tate, who went on to win, who I lost to in the Olympic trials. He trained Frank Tate, a lot of fighters. He was here in Houston.
He trained Jesse Burnett too, the old great Philadelphia middleweight that never quite won a championship.
And what about Bruce Curry, who shot at him one time? He trained Donald Curry's brother, Bruce.
I said Bruce. That was one of the first five guys I mentioned. That's why it's hard to forget that he trained Bruce Curry.
Oh, okay. But I know who we leaving out, who was two great fighters, Orlando Canizales and his brother. Those two guys, he trained them.
Yeah, Gabby.
Gabby and Orlando, right?
Yeah, Gabby was the first guy. He was the guy that upset. Who was that featherweight or bantamweight's name? Jeff Chandler.
Yeah. But that's that. So listen, I ended up going to California, stayed there a week. I remember the last day I sparred, and I was at 108th Street Gym in Watts, California. That was just going to say Bill Slayton. That was Ken Norton, manager and trainer. He had the gym in Watts, California, 108th Street Gym, and this is a gym where all the old fighters was there too. And I moved there in 1989, and it's the same year that Sugar Ray Robinson passed away. Now, I just missed him because he used to be at that gym all the time too. But Mr. Carl DeMay, the late Mr. Carl DeMay flew in, and he watched me spar with what's the guy name? He knocked him out in the second round. But he's 168, and he's the baddest guy in California in that 68. And me and him used to spar. And I never forget when we got to sparring, because Mr. DeMay took me in a room, and he said, "Well, Reggie, we're very interested. We want to do something with you. What is it going to take?" I said, "Well, Mr. DeMay, I hadn't really thought." He said, "Oh, wait a minute." He said, "Wait, whoa." He went and got a pen and paper. He said, "Whatever it takes, just write it down. Just let me know when you're ready." And I wrote everything I wrote on that paper. He said, and he looked at it, and he said, "Done deal." I came back home. I was living in a one-bedroom apartment, put everything in storage, and went back. And I think it was almost 2 years I came back. When I came back home, I was number one by the WBC, the IBF, and number two by the WBA. And at one while, I was number one across the board. But that's how I ended up going to California. And sometimes you realize you got to chase the dream. The dream don't chase you. And if I wouldn't have moved to California, I probably would have never got a chance to fight for a world title.
Wow, so that did have a significant impact. And I mean, not long after you moved to California, you ended up getting your first shot against James Toney. You performed exceptionally well. In fact, I thought I had you winning that fight when I watched it not long ago, and you even dropped him in the second round with a nice sweeping left hook. What do you recall of that? And what do you recall of that fight?
Well, let me tell you this here. In June, I was at the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and the guy John Scully, you know John Scully?
Yeah, he's been on the show a few times.
Yeah, John Scully, he's always setting up taping stuff, but he set this thing up because James Toney was there. I hadn't seen him since we fought. So me and him just reunited in June at the Hall of Fame. That fight with James Toney, man, in my heart, even today, I know I won that fight, the people that I was signed with the DeMay Group, the guy who managed the whole deal was Marty Dinkin, the guy that played in Rocky. He used to be the commissioner, boxing commissioner of California.
Yeah.
When I got home back in I lived in Long Beach. When I got back home after I watched that fight, I saw when they was coming back from a commercial, and I'll never forget this lady's name. She's added a name, but she's got married now. Patricia German is the judge. She had me 4 points going in the last round. But I saw when they came back, she was leaning. Barb Arum was sitting behind her. He was leaning over, talking to her. So I took this to Marty Dinkin and called Mr. Domanium and pointed this out to him. I said, "Well, listen, we can get a rematch right here. But let me ask you a question. My name never came up again. Rematch, nothing. James Toney never mentioned my name again.
Yeah, because you know you kicked his ass.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, and one of the things I say, and I've said this in interviews, you know, in my heart, I know I won that fight, but when I look at that fight, you know, I could have been more aggressive. I could have knocked James Toney out and made it. I could have made it more decisive when I look back at that fight. But keep in mind, that was my first world title fight, and that was his second.
Right. And so the Bob Arum thing, I mean, is that the first time you'd seen something like that firsthand that you know, you thought was shady, or you know, is that the first time you had some business?
Well, in mind, on that level, that was my first world title fight. I've heard the name Bob. I didn't know Bob Arum, but let me tell you this here. Fast forward, as I had won a couple of world titles, I was at a fight in California, and Bob Arum just keeps staring at me. He just keeps staring at me. And he hadn't seen me since that tournament. He just keeps staring at me. So I tell one of my guys, I say, man, I say, what's wrong with Bob Arum? He said transvestite. I should have said, is he funny or something? Why he keep looking at me? But he just kept looking at me. So Bob Arum kept looking at me. So you know what? I went and approached him. I said, how you doing, Mr. Arum? It's all good. How you doing, sir? And he just had that. But see, this is after I had just knocked out William Guthrie. It was right after that fight. And I can tell that he wanted to say something to me, but he didn't. You know how a person's expression or how they react, I mean, they don't really have to say nothing. You can pretty much figure it out. So. But, you know, yeah, go ahead.
So we get, not even a year later, you get another shot at the title against Steve Collins. I think it was in New Jersey. What was it like winning that one finally winning a championship and winning against a quality opponent like Steve Collins? Well,
you know, I had worked hard, man. It was probably one of my greatest. It's definitely my top three experiences in boxing, because first of all, my hero in and out the ring, Muhammad Ali, was there ringside supporting me, and him being there, and I'll never forget it. The day before the fight, I was in the room. You know, Ali's like a big kid, clowning, joking, and I was in there. He had a little son in there, and I was in there praying with his son and praying with Ali. And I never forget my chief trainer, the late Manuel Chato Robles, knocked on the door and said, Reggie, he called me outside. He said, listen, I know you love Ali, but Ali can't fight for you, man. We got to go. We fighting for the world title. You know, he's from Mexico. And he was right. So, and I had to leave. But just know, you know, Ali being there, and, you know, if you go back and watch the end right before they called the decision, when they said 114, you should have seen the expression on my face. I'm like, oh man, they're gonna do this to me again, you know. Yeah, but you know, they got it right, and it's just, man, the book I'm gonna write, man, it's gonna address a lot of stuff. I was with Murad Muhammad, and the only reason why I went with Murad Muhammad at that time is because he told me, he said, listen, man, they're trying to put this fight in, where's Steve Collins from? In,
I believe he's from Ireland.
Yeah, he's from Ireland. They're trying to do the fight over there. You'll never win a fight over there. I'm fighting. I get to fight here, and so I end up doing business with him. I did a tune-up fight, and then I fought Steve Collins. But check this out. The next morning, when we leave and checking out the hotel, Steve Collins approached me, and he tell me, he say, Reggie, there's a good fight, man. He said, I made decent. This is the first time I made decent money to help, give my family a little security. And then he spoke the numbers that he made, and when he spoke the numbers, I don't know if he could tell from the expression on my face, but I tried to play it off. I realized that I got that big word you used, the big F word, and because you know how I end up fighting Steve Collins, how he and I end up fighting.
How's that?
When Mike McCallum fought James Toney, he didn't pay his sanctioning fee, so they stripped him. So whenever that happened, keep in mind, I told you I was number 2 by the WBA, and Steve Collins number, so 1 and 2 fight, and it's a 50-50 split. Steve Collins got $250,000. I was supposed to get $250,000. I only got like $100,000 for that fight.
Wow. Well, I guess
I wouldn't have never knew that if Steve Collins brought that to my attention. And to this day, he don't even know it.
He might now.
Huh?
He might now.
Well, I don't know if he know or not, but I talked to his brother one time, talked to a couple of people, because I'm trying to set up or do a tour with he and I over in that area, in the London, UK area. But that's how that whole deal went down. And me, I came home, I got some attorneys. No. Let me tell you this first. I came home, I went to George Foreman and told him what happened. And you know the advice George Foreman gave me? He said, Reggie, what you need to do is finish out that contract and then don't do business with them guys no more.
Yeah.
I did the complete opposite, because I was sitting there and heard George Foreman telling me how he sued these guys, what they did to him. Why would you tell me that? Something that you wouldn't do. Why would you tell me to do that?
Right.
And I slept on it and I thought about it, and I went and got attorneys, and I got out that contract. I hired attorneys right here in my city.
Right. Well, and unfortunately, you're not the first fighter we've talked about who's gotten the big F word. I mean, Mike had Johnny Bumpus on not long ago, and yeah, he had some stories to tell as well. But immediately after that fight, you faced Lamar Parks, and I believe you credited with Parks as being the best jabber and the best puncher you ever fought.
Oh yeah. I mean, as far as I guess you guys probably saw the. I got some good reviews on the deal. The best I fought. Have you guys read that article, Ring Magazine? Yeah,
I definitely have. I can't. I think it's been a few months since I saw it, but the one thing I remember about your article was that you were giving long answers. Sometimes you see a lot of these guys and they give short one-word answers or maybe a sentence or two, but you were given a paragraph, 2 paragraphs at times.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of people weighed in and say, "Man, this is the best one." Not saying that it was the best fighter they interviewed, but it was the best. My answers was the best. That's how they weighed in and said. And the guy, when Canelo fought the guy from Austin, I can't think of his name. They fought here in Houston at the baseball stadium. The
James
guy
Kirkland.
came here. I spent huh?
It was James Kirkland.
Yeah, James Kirkland. But the guy who came from the guy with Ring Magazine, the writer who did that article, The Best I Faced, I took him to the gym, me and him hung out. For like 2-3 days, I just hung out, showed him the city, and he did his interview, and he was very pleased with my interview. And then, at the end of the interview, it's nice when you can go at the bottom and just, people, the boxing fans weigh in on it, and they said some good things. And I remember there was another article I was reading that day, and one of the fight fans said, Reggie Johnson, come on, man. Reggie Johnson is a cab driver. He's not a good. so you got to be ready for that too, man. And I'm telling you, man, this is one of the funniest things it was real funny to me. It didn't make me upset or discouraged me, but it was just funny. I thought, oh no, man!
There's always a handful of dumbasses, no matter what you've done.
Yeah, and this guy's probably a couch trainer, anyways. You know, he's one of those guys who's watching boxing. He's probably one of those guys.
I think it was something about James Toney. It was something about James Toney, and I guess James Toney was his favorite fighter, and that's why he said a cab driver or something. But it's just funny, man. The hot boxing fans, and like Ali said, man, whether they with you or against you, they still buying tickets.
Yeah, definitely. That's the most important thing. Now you got to fight Roy Jones Jr. How do you compare fighting Roy to the other fighters you fought? Was he the best you ever fought?
Oh yeah, well, I pretty much laid that out too in that interview with the Best I Faced. Yeah, Roy, he's the best. But see, I always tell people when fighting a Roy Jones, he's like think about Ali fighting, man. You know, with the fundamentals, how much stuff Ali did wrong, but he's so gifted and with speed and timing and just ring generalship that it made up for everything. And Roy was that kind of fighter. And, the beautiful thing about that, we made history. It was a unification fight. And when I fought Roy Jones, I fought him in his prime.
Yeah, he was a hell of a fighter at his prime. Near the end, you nearly got a win over Antonio Tarver. And you got to win over former light heavyweight champion Julio Cesar Gonzalez. You were always a crafty guy, an excellent, slick southpaw. How did you maintain, being so effective at such a late age? I mean, was it training or you just have it?
Well, like I said, man, it's people wonder, man, what's up with boxing? What's up with the U.S. fighters? What's going on? And I explained this to the guy in the U.K. as well. I said, think about it, man. The last time America won a gold medal was Andre Ward. That's 2004. I said, but think about it. All the old school trainers then died off, and there's very few trainers that are training fighters that was trained by the old school trainers. And I credit my style, my success to guys like Curtis Coates, Jesse Reed, and Jesse Reed claimed the fame whenever he talk about me. He said, Reggie never lost a fight when I was in this corner, and it's true. And then I worked with some other fighters. What's the fighter that was training Holyfield? At the end, they got a guy here named Kenny Weldon. He trained a lot of fighters. What's the guy that was training Holyfield? He worked my corner when I fought Jones.
Don Turner.
Turner, yeah. And then another thing, I was able to talk and have conversations with Archie Moore, Charlie, the other guy, fighter that was with George Foreman. So I talked to a lot of fighters, and then I had Manuel Chato Robles, who was a great trainer. Alberto Davila, former bantamweight champion, the guys that was training me when I was in L.A. It just man, and when you have those type of guys, when you're learning from those type who not just talking the talk, they already walk the walk and they know what they're talking about. I mean, I credit that all to those great fighters, man. I was very fortunate to have a great mentor who was also a fighter when he served, Curtis Coates and all those guys. I was just fortunate, man. And the first thing Curtis told me, he said, everything starts and ends with your legs. Your defense starts with your legs, your offense starts. And I never forgot that. And if you watch that Parks fight, I beat Lamar Parks with my legs.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing that stands out to me is when you talk about it, amateur boxing in the United States from the early 60s up until probably the late 80s was unreal. And, I mean, you talk about having those trainers, but you look at the U.S. Olympic boxing teams. You had guys like Ken Adams, Pat Nappy, Raleigh Schwartz. These guys all knew what they were doing. And it seemed like, I mean, winning the New York City Golden Gloves back in 1980 was almost as big as being a world champion.
Oh, yeah, man. Like, I think I know Iran Barkley. Didn't he win that so many times?
Mark Breland won it 5 times.
Yeah, Mark Whelan won it 5 times. I think Iran Barkley won it. I think Mike McCallum won it too, didn't he?
I think McCollum did win it a couple times, didn't he, Jeremiah?
I think so. We
Yeah.
probably have to ask Chris Benedict.
Yeah, then you got guys like Alex Ramos who won multiple championships and the Golden Gloves, and it was just a different world back then, and I think that's why you've seen American boxing drop off so much, because you don't have enough free TV, and you don't have the quality trainers, and you get a guy like Deontay Wilder, and they're protecting him so they can cash in on him one big payday.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think he's going to beat Ortiz, or you think he's going to beat Joshua? Well,
I think this.
Joshua first.
I think there's no way he beats Joshua. I think the only way he beats Ortiz is if Ortiz is old. I mean, if Ortiz is the Ortiz I saw 2 or 3 years ago, there's no way in hell. Ortiz is too technically strong, and he can crack, and Wilder can't take a punch.
And he got fundamentals, but see, I like that dude Joshua, because when that fight with the Kolesko, he showed a lot of heart and got up. But the only thing that worried me about Joshua, his chin.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's not the first time he's been hurt either. If you look at he actually got stopped in the amateurs by I'm trying to think of it, a good southpaw. I think he was from I don't know if he was from Bulgaria or I can't quite remember, but he was stopped in the amateurs. I know he's dropped in the amateurs by Dillian White, and he was also hurt in the professional ranks by Dillian White. And David Price actually said he dropped him too. So yeah, there are definitely some concerns, of course.
But then again, Deontay Wilder hasn't fought anybody good enough to get close enough to drop him. I mean, Joshua's fought in a lot better competition.
Right, but he has been dropped. Wilder was actually dropped, maybe arguably against Dustin Nichols, who was, I think, a cab driver by day. But he was also knocked down by Harold Sconiers, who was I think, a borderline journeyman type fighter as well.
Well, I know they showed on those social websites when he was sparring, he got rocked and like he was, wobbled in sparring.
Yeah,
like 2 or 3 times I've seen that.
Yeah, I was telling Mike that the other night. He was sparring David Hay in England.
Right. David Hay, yeah, I saw that. I seen that. And I'm blessed, and I'm gonna say I'm grateful, man, because when you didn't win in that ring that many times, if you add all that up for me as an amateur and a pro, that's 160 fights, 96-12, and I had 52 pro fights. You add it up, that's 100, and not to have somebody stand over me or count over me or have a referee come get somebody off me and say the fight is over. Man, I'm blessed. I got all my teeth. I got all my faculties. Man, I got grandkids. I got all my kids are grown. I'm healthy. I hope you guys can understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed, sir. I'm really blessed, man.
So what are you doing nowadays?
Well, I do. I'm gonna tell you 2 things. The late Mr. James Carter told me when I was a kid. He told me, and I tell this to I tell this to kids, but this is across the board for everybody. The 2 things I'll never forget in life, what he told me, and I share this with everybody. Mr. Carter told me, introduce me to your friends, and I can predict your future.
Yeah.
The second thing he told me, he said, Reggie, just like I'm here for you today, you have to be there for someone tomorrow. So that's where that whole thing, 3 world titles is not enough, man. I do so much charity. Recently we just had Hurricane Harvey here, man, for like 2 months straight, man. I'm talking 5 days out of a week. I did nothing but charity work. Life after boxing, I just got a corporate business, and I'm the brand name, but my sister background is real estate. We got 3 other partners. We do real estate, business planning, and we got a CPA, all that stuff in our office. So that's pretty much, and just like I learned to buy. I'm learning business.
All right, Jeremiah, any final questions?
I do, yeah, and this is kind of what I alluded to earlier, and this is because I actually wrote on this, and I wrote an article, why I thought boxing had too many weight classes and why it needed to trim down, but I cite the late 80s and early 90s as kind of an example why. So, as we talked about, in the 90s, right, you had guys like Michael Nunn, Mike McCollum, Bernard Hopkins was a little late to the game, but, you had Ben, you had Nigel Benn, you had Chris Eubank, you had tons and tons of guys who are really Salambu Kalimbe, tons and tons of talented guys. But the unfortunate thing
Don't
was...
forget Julian Jackson.
Julian Jackson,
Don't forget Julian Jackson.
Oh, yeah, the murderous puncher. Yeah, no. I mean, it's hard to forget guys like that. So I want to ask first, do you wish you fought more of those guys? And secondly, why do you think a lot of those guys didn't fight one another? It seems like we had a lot of big misses, like, Ben never fought Toney, Eubank never fought Toney. There were just some misses there.
Well, once again, I tell people this all the time, and I've learned this. When you get an attorney to represent you, this attorney took an oath to do what's in the best interest of his client. See, a promoter is like an attorney. That's why they always say attorneys have a license to steal. A promoter is gonna do what's in his best interest. And I'm gonna give you a perfect example. When I was with the late Ten Goose, I just talked to his brother the other day. What's his name?
Dan Goosen?
He passed. Dan Goosen. When I was with Dan Goosen, he called us, and said he wanted me to fight this dude from Korea. The dude was 10-2-1. I said, I don't want to fight that guy. I don't want that guy record on I'm world champion, man. Why I'm fighting that guy from Korea, this and that? And he's going on back and this and that. But I ended up fighting this guy. You know why I ended up fighting the guy? I ended up fighting the guy because he promised me that if I take care of the Korean, or we forgot about Terry Norris, he say he'll move, and he's both our promoters. He'll move Terry Norris up from 54 to 60 to fight me in a super match, and we'll make a $1.2 million a piece. So I took that fight, but that fight never happened.
Wow. That's a hell of a story. I mean, because I think any boxing fan who's especially hardcore boxing fans, they'd have loved to have seen Reggie Johnson versus Terry Norris.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it would have been and I don't know if you remember this here, but way back in the day, I was middleweight champion. Don King had this big meeting in New York. He bring all the middleweights there, top middleweights, and all the super middleweights. The two guys from London you mentioned, they was there too. Eubanks and Nigel Benn, they was there. All the fighters was there. I don't think Roy Jones wasn't there, but all the other middleweights, the top middleweights, champions, and all these top guys was there. And he's gonna have a tournament like he ended up having with the heavyweights, but it never materialized. It never happened. And man, it was, me fighting Eubanks, Nigel Benn, Gerald McCullen, all these names came up, but it never materialized.
Yeah, it's a
we
shame
matched with James Toney.
That happens a lot in boxing.
Now, I know one name we didn't mention. This guy fought James Toney. A lot of people think he beat James Toney, but he never fought again. He initiated the Muhammad Ali Act. Dave Tiberi,
yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's him?
Yeah, I think that's actually a guy that I think that's one of the few guys Toney has admitted to losing to.
Well, I never heard Toney admit to losing to this guy.
Yeah, listen, I talked to James a few weeks ago, and he never admitted that to me.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Check this out, man. Every year before I go to the Hall of Fame, I have an advisor that lives in Wilmington, Delaware. I go there. I do nothing but charity for 3 days. And then he and I go to the Hall of Fame. One of the stops I had, we had breakfast with Dave Tiberi. Because I never met him because me and him was supposed to fight too. But it never happened. And I got a chance to talk to him about that. And he told me some stuff that I didn't know. I never knew he was the one really initiated that Muhammad Ali Act. He the one took that whole thing to Congress. He was appointed was Governor McCain from Arizona.
Yeah, John McCain.
He the one initiated. Yeah, and he the one initiated that. And he's just telling me. And think about this, man. when man, if I lose or somebody outdo me, or like when I fought Tarver, people was telling me it was a split decision. Man, you really won the fight. I said, nah. I say he out hustled me. And see, a lot of people don't know this here. I got my eardrum busted in the third round, and my equilibrium and all that was off. That's why my whole style changed in that fight. And not to make any excuses, but Tarver out hustled me. He beat me. Now, this is what I don't understand, man. How can you insult? Really, you ain't even got to be a boxing person. If you see two people fighting, you pretty much know who wins. And I know some fights are going to be so close, you're going to say, man, it might be a draw. It's close. I don't know. But for the most part, you're going to know who wins that fight. You ain't got to be a boxing person. You see what I'm saying? It's just like a street fight, man. Oh, man, that guy, he whooped your ass, man. No, he didn't whoop my ass. Come on, bro. I'll sit here and watch the whole thing. Yeah, so it's amazing, man. And I want to interview. I got some questions for you guys. What about the what? No, I'm serious. What about the fight with Triple G and Canelo? Who you think really won that fight?
Triple G won that fight.
Yeah, I had Golovkin winning as well.
Now I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna be honest with you. When people call me, because when those big fights come up, they always call you, want you to weigh in on the fight. They call from London, they email me from all over the world. But I really thought Canelo was going to win that fight because his punches are faster and they're more straighter.
Well, who do you think won the fight?
I picked the wrong guy on that.
All right, there we go.
Oh, I thought Triple G won. I thought Triple G won that fight, but I mean, initially I thought Canelo would be faster, throw shorter, and come on, man, the quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line. And Triple G throw hard punches, man, but he don't throw them like Deontay, but he you can see him coming, you can position yourself to catch him and counter. Man, I'm telling you, at middleweight, who you think will win a fight between Lamar Parks and Triple G, both in their prime?
Jeremiah?
Well, I can't say that I've seen a ton of Lamar Parks, but I'd probably favor Golovkin there.
Let me tell you something, man. That dude, Lamar Parks, trust me, I fought this guy, man. This dude, man, a couple of times that dude hit me, and I should have won a Grammy or something for an Oscar because I played it off. This dude, he not only hit hard, but he's fast, man.
Well, and a lot of people aren't. Yeah, a lot of people aren't aware of that. I mean, there are tons of guys in boxing. I mean, you can talk to trainers from all sorts of gyms. Tons of guys who come up through the ranks and never get to the top level, or they get one big fight and they lose and then they're done. There are tons of really talented guys who probably could be great fighters if they had the right management or if they had the right training. Who fight these guys, right? And you don't think of them as great fighters. But you get guys like that all the time.
I just about 3 hours ago, I stopped at Lou Savarese's gym.
He was just on the show the other day.
Yeah, you told me about that. Listen, I was at his gym. I just left his gym, right? It's downtown Houston. And it's this guy, I met him at a fight not too long ago, and he was in there training, and you know what he called me to the side? He said, Reggie, man, I'm 13 and old. Isn't that what I got to do, man? I said, who handling your business? He said, I'm with, what's the guy name that got Mayweather, Al? What's his name?
What division?
Al Heyman?
No. What's Al Heyman? Yeah, he said, I'm with Al Heyman, man. I'm 13 and old. They won't give me fights, this and that. And then, you know what? That was reminiscent because, I was with Don King. I took Don King to court and got out their contract. Them guys, listen, man. They sign all these guys, and it's like, okay, I can use this guy now. They're gonna use you for when they can use you, and they don't worry about a person got to eat. They got kids. This is their career. They didn't put everything in this. I just, man. Let me tell you something, man. And they mentioned before about the government getting involved and handling that. I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, man, but honestly, man. I'm going to be honest with you. Life after boxing for me is this old attorney I met, he wanted all this big money with the tobacco case. One of my ex-managers introduced me to this guy, an old guy, about 74, 75 years old, got money galore. He's a Caucasian brother. He opening up a Mexican restaurant. His name is Don Riddle. The restaurant is Don Ramon. He got all this money. He just, but anyway, I stopped by the restaurant to make a long story short. And he asked me a question, and he was surprised I knew the question he asked. And the question he asked me, he said, "Do you know who Curt Flood is?" Let me ask you guys, do you know who Curt Flood is?
Yeah, St. Louis Cardinals. He's the one that brought in the free agency.
That's right. He initiated the arbitration and all that stuff in baseball.
Yeah, never played baseball again because of it either.
Exactly, but look what he did for baseball. Them guys wouldn't be making no $250, $300 million if it wasn't for him. But check this out. Now that guy, Mr. Riddle, Toney Riddle, told me. He said, "Reggie, man," he said, "all that you've done as a boxer, man, is great for your legacy, man. That's a great thing." He said, "But if you want to take your legacy to the next level," he said, "you should be the Curt Flood of boxing." Now this has been about 2.5, 3 years ago, and that's my mission. And I've been working on it. And let me tell you something, man. The element of surprise is a weapon. So I just keep it down for now. But that's what excites me about boxing. I don't even really watch boxing. If it's not a big fight, I don't watch it. I mean, I remember when it used to be, if it was two midgets fighting, man, I'm not gonna miss it. But I don't.
Oh, come on! Who's not gonna watch two midgets fight, Reggie?
Not me.
I watch two midgets fight.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, it just you get the message behind that. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just, bro. If it's not a big fight, my mission is to make boxing a better place, mainly for the fighters and the fans. And see, I got the remedy. See, the remedy is connecting the fighters with the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're I mean, us at this show, we're big proponents of cleaning up the sport because, we talk about this. If you ever listen to our weekly shows, we talk about this at length. I mean, we're constantly going on about, how fighters are getting jobbed and about how, the sport needs cleaning up. So more power to you, Reggie. We're 100% behind you.
Yeah, hell, if you want a platform, you can have your own show on the network.
Well, you know what? I was just getting ready to do another show, and I backed out of it. This wasn't a boxing show. It was a show that me and a whole crew of us. I did a radio show, and then at the radio show, we went to eat, and everybody was sitting around the table talking. Said, "Man, we need to do our own show." So we came up with this thing called Men Talk, Women Listen, and we was getting ready to do that show, and it was just some, it just didn't work out for me because a couple of the people involved, they wanted to take a different route and this and that. I just didn't do it. I didn't really have the time to do it, but one day I want to get in radio, but I want to have that platform when I get this thing to working with boxing. And man, trust me, man, that's just like the Hall of Fame. I love going to the Hall of Fame. If you're a boxing reporter, anything to do with boxing, man, if you go there one time, you're gonna be like, "Oh man."
Yeah, we've never been either because we're thinking about going this year.
Oh, hey. You guys got to get there, man. Let's meet there this year, man.
All right.
Let's meet there this year. Me and Bill Shears, I go there. I do like a charity for 2 or 3 days, East Coast charity tour, and then he and I drive from Wilmington upstate, like about a 5.5, 6 hour drive, and go to the Hall of Fame for like 3, 4 days, and then we come back and I fly back home the next day. But hey, man, I want to meet you guys. We ought to do that, man. Let me tell you something. That's just like even with the Hall of Fame. Come on, man. Why come they ain't putting that in place to help fighters? Come on. It's the same thing. It's like they pimping fighters too. You got all these fighters coming in, and you're not really paying them what they're worth, and you got all these people from all over the world coming, man. And it's a beautiful thing. I like Mr. Brophy, but man, you got to think, man. If he do something in place, man, let me tell you something. Them fighters have the utmost respect for him, and then he's running out of ideas. He needs some more events for that deal. And I got a ton of events. I got this thing called Forever Champions Tour that I've been working on for like about 4.5, 5 years. I got off of it, but I'm just not getting back on it because I had a gym and I was promoting some pro fights. That didn't work out too good for me because I'm working with people, non-boxing people. And wait a minute, man, you're not gonna exploit no fighter not on my watch,
Yeah.
So I had to walk away from that. I'm a fighter. I don't care if a fighter 0-50 and been knocked out 45 times. You're not going to exploit him on my watch. I represent all fighters. I'm a fighter. If you do that to him, you're doing it to me.
Well, and without those 0-50 fighters or guys like maybe you remember Reggie Strickland, without those guys, boxing is not what it is, right? You need guys at every level to help build guys, right? When you're coming up, that's why a lot of guys do 4 or 6 rounders and work your way to 8, 10, and then you step up the level of competition. And if you lose, you know where you're at. But those sort of guys are the guys that also make boxing. It's not just the champions.
Yeah, Mike, but some of these guys, man, these matchmakers, these fighters, come on, man. I was watching YouTube the other day. They put a guy in there, man. This dude didn't know a left hook from a fish hook, and they put that dude probably got him off the street. I'm serious, man.
Yeah.
And it's on YouTube. Go watch that. It said the worst fighter ever. And this
Actually,
dude,
I think I've seen that.
Street, yeah, the Caucasian brother. You seen him? This dude couldn't fight a lick. You can tell that dude ain't never been in no boxing ring. And it happens here. It happens here in my area in Houston too, man. And you can get somebody hurt, man. That's not.
Yeah.
I can't rock with it like that, man. Like these matchmakers. Come on, man. They got matchmakers and these promoters, man. They'll sell a person out for $200. A 4-round fight, man. You gonna sell this out to dude hurt for $200? Come on, man.
But all right, Reg.
I don't care if it's $2 million.
Hey, yeah. we want to thank you for coming on, and we definitely want to have you back on again sometime.
Okay, my pleasure, man. But we should stay in touch, and we should go ahead and start planning, man. You guys got to come to the Hall of Fame. I'm telling you, man. I go there every year. When me and Bill get there, we stay on the campus of Syracuse University. They got a nice big hotel there. That's where we normally stay. Sometimes we stay at the big casino where Layla Ali and Joe Frazier's daughter fought. But we normally stay right there in Syracuse. And the Hall of Fame is like about 23 miles from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely planning on doing that. Jeremiah, any last words?
Any last words? Yes, absolutely. I want to appreciate, Reggie Johnson for coming on the show. Love having guests like him, guys that articulate, guys who tell these in-depth stories. So again, I'm just appreciative that he was here, and I'm, thankful for that he took the time to sit down with us.
All right, Reggie.
No, I got one more thing.
Go ahead.
Hold on, man. I got one more thing I need to tell you guys. And man, I'm telling you, this boxing. Listen, did you guys know they did this survey, did this deal, and they came up with all the athletes, football players, basketball players, baseball players, soccer players, and boxers, and they came up with it, who the thing was who made the best lovers. And did you know that boxing came in first?
I did not know that, Reggie.
No.
So what are you saying? You saying something about yourself, Reggie?
No. But listen now, I got 6 kids, but this is they basically listen. George Foreman, I think he got 11 or 12. I think they said Holyfield got 16, and I know some other fighters. They got over 10 kids, and I'm like, man, this is amazing. Who would have the mindset to even think about who are the best lovers of sports? And guess why they say boxers came number 1?
Why is that?
They say because we stick and move.
Well, in Holyfield's case, he didn't move quick enough.
I don't think Holyfield can move out of his driveway.
He stuck it and forgot to move. Let's see.
Hey, man, I got that patent and everything. I wrote that. Don't y'all try to use that.
We'll have to put it on some Grueling Truth T-shirts, and we'll split the proceeds with you.
All right. Well, if y'all make some money with it, call me and give me half of
it. All right, Reggie. Hey, thanks for coming on. We'll definitely be in touch.
All right, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys, real quick, I want to send our condolences to Alex Ramos, whose father passed away yesterday. So, Alex, if you're listening to the show, I know you listen to all the shows. You have our deepest condolences, and me and Jeremiah are both praying for you. I'm sure Reggie also. Also, I want to remind everybody you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you hear podcasts. You'll find The Grueling Truth. For the conference championship games this weekend, we did our preview show last night, which is up at gruelingtruth.net. That was myself, of course, Brian Schmidt, Man Andrew Scavage, former Carolina Panther quarterback Toney Pike, and former Pittsburgh Steeler defensive back Brian McFadden, who's won 3 Super Bowls. So make sure you go on and check that out also. So for Jeremiah Preisser, Reggie Johnson, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.